Let me ask you a question. If you had access to a set of principles that helped shape every great civilization, every lasting legacy, every breakthrough moment in history, would you want them? Because that's what we're talking about today. Not hacks, not trends, not quick wins. Principles, carved into the story of humanity like stone into the pyramids. For over 9,000 years, men and women have risen from nothing to something by obeying certain laws of life. And the crazy part is, these principles didn't expire with time. We just stopped noticing them. But they're still here. Quiet, powerful, waiting to be lived again. And here's why you need to stay with me till the very end. Because I'm not just going to tell you what these 10 principles are. I'm going to show you how they can turn your daily routine into a legacy of success. Because whether you're trying to build a business, rebuild a life, or just finally get ahead, this is the foundation. Because success isn't a mystery when you understand the map. So if you're ready, let's dust off some ancient wisdom and bring it roaring into the present. There's something fascinating about looking back, something humbling too. Because no matter how far we've come with our technology, our skyscrapers, our satellites in orbit, when you really look close, you begin to see that the ideas that built today were born thousands of years ago. And I'm not talking about inventions, I'm talking about wisdom, timeless, foundational, rock-solid principles. And here's the point. Those old ideas, they still work. You see, people sometimes confuse new with better. They think because an idea comes with a shiny app or a sleek brand, it must be smarter than what came before. But the truth is, wisdom doesn't age. It doesn't corrode or rust or fade. Real wisdom is like gold. It holds its value no matter how many years pass. You look at the ancient world, the people who built pyramids without cranes, crossed continents without engines, ruled cities without satellites, and you realize they weren't dumb. They understood things we've forgotten. They mastered ideas like discipline, patience, consistency, and honor. These aren't outdated values. They're just underused in our world of shortcuts. We live in a time where everyone's looking for a faster way, a smoother trick, a way to get rich by Friday. But history tells us success has never worked that way. Not real success, not the kind that lasts. Because the people who built legacies, not just moments, didn't do it by skipping the process. They did it by living the principles. There's a reason ancient proverbs still ring true. There's a reason old philosophies still echo in boardrooms, locker rooms, classrooms. Because while the surface changes, the core of who we are stays the same. A person 9,000 years ago wanted the same things we want now, meaning progress, family security, purpose. And they found it through principles. They taught their children about discipline, not because it was trendy, but because it worked. They practiced delayed gratification, not because it was popular, but because it built character. They built strong families, strong communities, strong nations, all on the back of timeless truths. And if those principles worked then, they'll work now. Because they weren't just designed for a time, and they were designed for life. And I believe the moment we stop thinking we're too advanced for the basics, we start drifting from the very things that make us strong. It's not about going backward, it's about going deep, rediscovering what's real. Because when you strip away the noise, the filters, the flash, and the fluff, success still looks a lot like it did thousands of years ago. Daily habits, clear values, a long view, and the courage to stay with it. You don't need new ideas. You need ancient truth applied with modern hands. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you start to live by design instead of by accident. That's how you rise. We live in a high-speed world. We've got AI in our pockets, satellites overhead, instant access to answers that used to take libraries and lifetimes. And it's easy to believe in the middle of all this progress that we've somehow changed, that we're a completely different species than the people who walked the earth 500, 1,000, or even 9,000 years ago. But if you pull back the curtain of technology and strip away the tools, you'll find something striking. We're still the same. Same desires, same fears, same hopes, same internal battles between comfort and discipline, between distraction and focus, between ease and excellence. Our tools have evolved, yes, but our nature has not. Think about it. Ancient warriors prepared for battle just like modern athletes prepare for game day, with focus, repetition, and mental conditioning. Traders in ancient markets negotiated with the same blend of charm and strategy that today's entrepreneurs use in boardrooms and Zoom calls. Parents in every era have worried, loved, and worked for the same reason: to give their children a better life. The heart of what drives us hasn't changed. We want to matter, we want to grow, we want to feel the thrill of progress and the warmth of belonging. No new gadget can rewrite those codes. The danger is thinking that because our tools have gotten smarter, we have too. But smart tools in undisciplined hands only make the mess faster. A person with poor habits and a smartphone is just a distracted person with more access. A person with weak character and a global platform is just louder, not better. This is why principles still matter. They act as anchors in a storm of change. Tools can amplify your reach, but only principles can anchor your soul. You don't get stronger just because the gym equipment got an upgrade. You get stronger because you showed up day after day and did the work. Same thing with success. We've replaced walking with driving, letters with texts, lectures with videos, but we haven't replaced the inner work. There is still no substitute for self-discipline, no shortcut for integrity, no hack for perseverance. And anyone telling you otherwise is trying to sell you comfort at the cost of truth. The successful today are not the ones with the fanciest tools. They're the ones who use whatever tools they have with old-school grit and timeless focus. They're the ones who understand that new methods don't cancel out old values, they just deliver them faster. So don't be fooled by speed. Don't confuse access with wisdom. Just because you can get somewhere quicker doesn't mean you'll know what to do once you arrive. Master your nature, and the tools will serve you. Ignore your nature, and the tools will distract you. Success comes to those who know how to lead themselves, no matter what age they're living in. It's easy to get caught up in strategies, the latest plan, the newest funnel, the hottest business model. You scroll through your feed and see a dozen people promising 5 steps to financial freedom or 7 secrets to overnight success. And look, I'm not against strategies. They have their place. But you have to understand something vital. Strategies come and go. Principles stay. Strategies are like clothing. They change with the season. But principles, they're the bones, the frame, the part that doesn't bend when the wind shifts. If you build your life on strategy alone, you'll always be chasing the next trick. But if you build it on principle, the strategies become tools in your hands, not crutches under your feet. You see, principles are bigger than methods. A principle is a law, like gravity. You don't have to believe in it for it to work, it just does. Take the principle of sowing and reaping. You can call it karma, return on investment, or just good sense. But no matter how you dress it up, it's real. Plant laziness, you get regret. Plant excellence, you get results. That's not strategy. That's a principle. It works on a farm, it works in a business, it works in a marriage. The strategy might be different, but the result flows from the same root. People who fail often blame the system. They say, that method didn't work for me. But maybe the method wasn't the problem. Maybe the principle behind it wasn't respected. A person can copy every step of a millionaire's routine and still end up broke if they don't understand the mindset that gave birth to those steps. Because the real power isn't in the steps. It's in the character, the belief, the consistency. And those are built on principle. Look back through history. Kings, warriors, artists, entrepreneurs. The ones who stood the test of time were the ones who lived by something deeper than a plan. They lived by values, discipline, integrity, purpose. Strategies were tools they used, but principles were the engine. You can't shortcut that. Not if you want to last. Now don't get me wrong. Learn strategies, use them, adapt them, but test them against principle. Ask yourself, does this align with the truth? Does it respect the long game? Or is it just glitter on a shortcut? If the strategy works today but fails tomorrow, it's a tactic, not a principle. And tactics can't carry your future. Principles are what hold you steady when life shakes you. When the market shifts, when motivation dips, when people walk away, when failure whispers. If you've built your foundation on strategy alone, you'll fall apart. But if you've built it on principle, you can adjust the method and still keep moving. That's the difference. That's why principle-driven people outlast everyone else. They're not chasing waves. They're anchored in truth. One of the most beautiful things about principles is that they don't care where you started. They don't care what your last name is, how much money's in your account, what kind of education you had, or what neighborhood you grew up in. Principles are neutral. They don't play favorites. They're the great equalizers of life. They say, if you do the work, you'll get the result. Simple as that. That's why they're so powerful. Because while life might hand out different circumstances, principles hand out equal opportunity, but only to those who are willing to honor them. Think about this. Discipline works the same for the janitor as it does for the CEO. Integrity benefits the broke just like it does the wealthy. The principle of persistence will move a mountain for the teenager, just like it will for the seasoned executive. It doesn't matter if you're starting from a setback or a silver spoon. If you plant the seed, you'll get the harvest. You see, principles aren't about privilege. They're about practice. They ask only one question: are you willing to do what works? That's why you can see someone come from absolutely nothing, no connections, no resources, no background, and build a life that makes people say, how did they do it? The answer's simple. They found the principles. They stopped chasing luck and started building by law. They realized you don't have to be born into the right family or attend the right school if you live by the right principles. That's the real power, where it's accessible, it's fair, it's available to anyone bold enough to commit to it. Of course, some people don't want to hear that. Because if success is based on principles, that means no more excuses. That means your background isn't a cage. It's just a starting line. That means you don't get to blame your past, because the principles don't care where you've been. They care what you're doing now. And that kind of truth demands something from you. It calls you to rise, to take ownership, to stop waiting for a rescue and start living with responsibility. And the best part? These principles don't just equalize, they elevate. They lift people, they create transformation. They take someone who used to feel powerless and give them structure, give them direction, give them dignity. And that's when things really start to shift. Not just on the outside, but inside. You begin to walk different, talk different, think different. Because you know the ground you're standing on isn't luck, it's law. You didn't get handed success. You earned it. You aligned with it. You lived into it. And that changes everything. So no matter where you're starting from, these principles don't ask if you're ready. They ask if you're willing. Willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to take small steps with big faith. Because if you are, these principles will meet you right where you are and walk you all the way to where you could be. Take a moment to think about every great civilization you've ever studied or heard about. The Egyptians with their towering pyramids, the Greeks with their philosophy and innovation, the Romans with their infrastructure and order, the empires of the East with their deep wisdom and cultural richness. They all looked different on the outside, different languages, climates, architecture. But on the inside, they all had something in common. They were built on pillars, not just of stone but of principle, values that shaped behavior, codes that governed action, laws, not just of politics but of character. That's what held them together. That's what gave them power. And when they drifted from those principles, that's when they crumbled. You see, history isn't just a story of events, it's a study of patterns. And if you study long enough, you'll see it clear as day. Every time a group of people aligned themselves with core principles, things like discipline, responsibility, order, vision, respect, service, they rose, they built, they multiplied. And when they abandoned those principles for comfort, corruption, or convenience, they declined. It didn't matter how strong their armies were, or how beautiful their cities looked. If the foundation cracked, the rest didn't last. The reason that matters today is because we're not that different. We're not building cities out of stone anymore. We're building businesses, families, legacies, dreams. But the same laws apply. The same pillars hold. If you want your life to stand the test of time, not just impress in the moment, but endure for generations, you need to build it on the same timeless truths. The same principles that held up civilizations will hold up your life. Because principle is what gives structure to ambition. It's what gives integrity to power. It's what turns motion into meaning. What good is a vision if it has no discipline? What good is talent without work ethic? What good is freedom without responsibility? These are the questions that shaped empires, and they're the same questions that will shape your life. You might not wear a crown or lead a nation, but you're still a builder. You're building your future with every thought, every habit, every choice. So the real question is, what are you building on? If you want to rise and stay standing, study those who did. Not just what they made, but how they made it. What principles guided them? What values drove them? Because the most powerful thing you can do isn't to invent a new way. It's to return to what works. It's to remember that greatness isn't something you chase. It's something you construct day by day on a firm foundation. Just like the civilizations before us. And just like them, when you build on truth, you're building to last. One of the biggest myths people believe is that success is some kind of mystery, like it's hiding behind a curtain or locked in a vault somewhere, and only the lucky ones get the key. But that's just not true. Success isn't a secret. It's a system. And once you learn how to live by principle, it stops feeling like a gamble and starts feeling like a process, a rhythm, a blueprint. That's the real beauty of these 10 principles. They take the guesswork out of growth. They let you trade anxiety for direction. You don't have to wonder if you're on the right path anymore. You'll know. See? Most people live reactive lives. They wait for opportunity to knock, for motivation to strike, for circumstances to improve. They think the right job, the right person, or the right moment is going to show up and change everything. But people who live by principle, they create those moments. They don't wait for the right day, they make the day right. They show up whether it's raining or sunny, whether they feel like it or not, because they understand something most people don't. Success responds to consistency. That's the power of living by principle. You don't rise and fall with your emotions. You're not swayed by trends. You become steady, grounded. And over time, that steadiness compounds. One day of discipline becomes a week becomes a habit becomes momentum. And momentum, that's where the magic lives. Because once you've got momentum, success isn't just possible, it's predictable. You can feel it moving toward you because you're moving toward it. One small principle at a time, let me tell you. When you truly master these principles, your results stop being accidental. You don't just hope things go well. You expect them to, not because of entitlement, but because of alignment. You've done the work. You've kept the promises. You've honored the process. And there's a kind of quiet confidence that comes from that. Not arrogance. Certainty. The kind of certainty that says, I don't know exactly when the reward will come, but I know it's coming, because the law is in motion. And here's the best part. These principles don't just make success predictable, they make failure preventable. You start to see the warning signs. You start to recognize the patterns. You know what leads to burnout. You know what leads to regret. You catch it early because you're no longer wandering through life with your eyes closed. You're awake, aware, intentional. That's the gift of these ancient truths. They remove the fog. They give you a compass. And once you start walking with that kind of clarity, your future doesn't look mysterious anymore. It looks inevitable. Because when you build your life on principle, you're not hoping for success. You're walking straight toward it. So here we are. 10 principles, 9,000 years, one truth. Success is not a mystery. It's a structure. It's been built before, and it'll be built again. by those willing to live by the same foundations that stood the test of time. The faces may change, the tools may evolve, but the path remains the same. It's paved with discipline, responsibility, service, patience, focus, humility, vision. Not shortcuts, not hacks, not noise. Principles. You see, you don't have to reinvent greatness. You just have to return to it, reconnect with it, realign your life with what already works. And once you do that, once you stop chasing trends and start honoring truth, everything changes. Not all at once, but certainly steadily, you begin to build. And what you build, no storm can shake because it rests on something deeper than luck, something older than convenience, something stronger than fear. It rests on principle. Now, the decision is yours. You can leave this room inspired, or you can leave this room committed. You can admire the truth, or you can apply it. And I'll tell you something I've learned. Inspiration is cheap. Commitment is rare. But commitment is what changes lives. So I'll leave you with a challenge. Don't just hear these 10 principles, live them, try them, test them, apply them, and watch what happens. Watch how the confusion fades. Watch how your confidence grows. Watch how the results follow. Not because you got lucky, but because you got aligned. And if someday someone asks you, how did you do it? You can smile and say, I didn't guess. I followed the principles. That's the path, that's the way, and now it's yours. Thank you.